Hi, this is Barry from Ragic speaking. Alright, I see we have two participants today and I will be answering your questions on this webinar. It's mostly a Q&A type of thing. Let me just check if my voice is going properly. Yeah, it seems like fine, but if you can't hear me or if you're seeing the video lagging, just let me know because I don't really see some lagging on my end on my other computer. All right, you guys, today is the Ragic office hour webinar and it's mostly about answering your questions and building prototypes according to how the conversation goes, and we'll see how that is. I will be answering all your questions as best as I can, and I have not received any emailed questions this month, so please go ahead and ask anything you want and we'll try building a prototype accordingly. Alright, as a reminder, you probably need to be logged into YouTube in order to comment on the live chat. The live chat is on the right side of your screen, and if you don't see it on the right side of your screen, it should be below the video on the right side. According to my schedule, the other webinars of this month is going to be, there's two more. So on the 19th, which is a Monday, there's going to be something about importing and exporting data on Ragic. And on the 29th, which is a Thursday, we're going to build a school database together. And they're all quite interesting. And if you have related databases you want to build, like a training program or a workshop you need to sign people in, it's going to be related to that school database webinar. So feel free to join me on the 29th or 19th, and I hope to see you all. And alright, I'm taking questions now. The live chat is on the right side of your screen. If I don't receive any questions, then I don't really have a prepared curriculum for this webinar, and I will wait for people to ask me things. So please don't hesitate, and I will be glad to answer. For the people who are just joining, we are doing our Ragic Office Hour webinar, and I will be only answering questions and building prototypes according to what's being asked on the live chat. So if you have anything to ask, please write on the live chat on the right side. You will need to be logged into YouTube, and I will be building prototypes or answering questions according to what you're asking. And I would be glad to answer some technical questions as well. Although I'm not a developer, I might not be able to answer everything about that. So feel free to go ahead and ask me anything. Great, so I have not received any emailed questions, so I don't really have any questions to go over with you guys right now. So if you want to ask me anything about the database building in Ragic or related topics, then you can let me know through the live chat bar, and it's on the right side of your screen. If If you don't see it, you should scroll down a little bit and it should still be on the right side. If you're a beginner in Ragic, we have quite a few guides here. So in your account, you can go to the Start tab, and if you click on Learn Ragic, then it will take you to this page, and you can search in the knowledge base or look at our user guides over here. The database design document is quite nice. It has everything that you need to design your own database and build your own sheets within Ragic, and the user manual is mostly for using Ragic, and if you're the end user, then of course you can have a look at that and see how things work with Ragic. If you have quite a few users in your account, then you can ask people to, you can send people this link and then they can have a look if you want. So again, I don't really have a set curriculum or agenda for this webinar, and I go by answering questions. So if you have any questions regarding your own database, even if it's, you know, very niche as an industry, you can still let me know and we can work through building something similar. Right, I'll be waiting here on standby for your questions. John Nelson is asking, what's the difference between sheets and subtables? Can subtables be edited directly? Now, the difference between sheets and subtables is a sheet is actually a collection of your database form and all the entries in it. So when I'm creating a new sheet over here, it is the entire thing. So currently I didn't have any tabs, so I'm creating a tab, like my database can be the tab's name, and the tab is actually a folder, kind of like in your computer. So it collects different sheets, and when you see, like when you're creating a new sheet, it will say new sheet name. So this is the entire sheet, which is again the form plus all the records. So when I create a new one, let's say it's a customer database sheet. So I'm going to name it customers, and that is the new sheet entirely. And when I create that through here, it will take me to the database form. So the database form is where you design one records, all the fields that one record needs to have. So for my customers, that would be customer ID, customer name, for example, customer last name, and phone number, mobile number, and then perhaps their address. Okay, so those are all the fields on my form, and let's maybe add an email as well. Okay, so these are all the fields, and when I save this, it will create my form, and when I exit, this is going to be my new customer's form. And when I create a new one, then I can add, for example, one. I can automize that if I want, but Sophia, let's say, our customer. And, well, let's skip these fields. Let's say she's Sophia at Ragic. So this is one record, right? When I create a record, I am filling the form. So this is the form page still, but I'm in editing mode. And when I save it, it gets saved in the form page. Now, when I create the form page for the first time, Ragic will create a listing page. So this, what we see here, is a list of all my records in the sheet. Okay, so every form is a part of the sheet, and every listing page is also showing me what that sheet contains. So if I had several entries, let's add one with a quick add tool over here. Oh, I can't click that. Let me refresh this page. Oh, there we go. So when I add a new record from this page, like John and Doe, I'm just going to leave these blank. That's another record, and when I click on that record, it will go to that records form page. So this is where actually your data is kept, and then when you go back to the listing page, it's going to show you all the records that are displayed. So you can actually display more rows on a page if you want to, but I don't recommend displaying too many rows. It makes the loading time a little bit slower. So this is the listing page. Now the entire thing, collecting your records and your form design and the listing page, that is called a sheet where all your data is stored. So my customers are going to be a sheet. If I had products in my database, then that would be a different sheet because it's a different type of collection in your information. So each title underneath your tabs is going to be counted as a sheet. Now, what subtables is entirely different. A subtable is a subset of information that you might have, and you collect those as different records inside one record. So what that means is, let me create one subtable over here. So what subtable can I have for my customer? Let's say that every time I contact this customer, then I need to keep a record of it. So let's call it a contact record subtable. So for my contact record, I probably need a timestamp, and then I'll just make this an automatic thing that Ragic can create for me, so that I wouldn't really need to edit it all the time. So I just put a default value over here. Now if I want to create a subtable, you know how you click on empty fields to create a regular field? Now in my form page design, if I ignore where usually the value is going to be for my timestamp over here and directly create a field over it by typing a field name, for example contact type, then it's going to become a subtable. Now you can see this white thing underneath my timestamp field has shifted from where my contact type field was to here, which is below that field. So, and you can see like 3 blank spaces. So that makes my subtable entries, where the subtable entries is going to be. So this information is going to be created every time I contact my customer. And let's say we have like short notes about what the contact was about. Now I'll show what that means in a minute, but contact type, let's say phone call, Skype call, meeting, and let's say important email record. Okay, and we have notes basically about what the correspondence was. And let me just put a title with one of the static text options over here so that we can kind of see this more clearly. Contact records. So each time I'm talking with this customer, I kind of want to keep a record so that my other colleagues in this database can see it. And if they need to follow up with them, then it would be easier. So since this timestamp was going to be automatically populated, I'm just selecting a contact type over here. Let's say I had a meeting with Sophia and then requested vendor quotes. Okay, so that's one record. inside my subtable, which is inside my form. Does that make sense, John? And the next thing, let's say, was a email, and then sent vendor quotes might be the next one. So this timestamp is generated according to my system time right now. And whenever I generate a new subtable record, you can see that if I don't have space underneath the subtable, it's going to actually expand as we go. So you can see that you never really run out of space in the subtable. So what this converts to as a sheet is, if I wanted to see all my contact records for all my customers, then I can create a new sheet from this subtable through my linking. And that would be through the change design module over here, again, to the design mode where we just were creating the subtable at. And then through form tools, we can create a new sheet from subtable with this option. And I can select a field that will link back to my customers. So usually that's an ID that you have unique to your customer sheet. And where that would be my customer ID for this case, I usually do recommend using an ID number. If it makes sense to you, a customer ID, or some people use a phone number. I still don't recommend using the name or the full name, or actually phone or email don't really work very well as well, because some people I know some people that share phone numbers or email addresses, and if they're like a customer of the same store and they want different accounts, then it's going to be a problem. But make sure that you use an ID that is unique to your customers, that makes sense to your company. So I'm going to select the customer ID because I want my contact records to link to a customer ID, and then I can go back and forth with these sheets. So now I'm going to create this sheet from the subtable. And again, as I said, it's going to collect all my contact records within that subtable and link it with the customer ID that I had with Sophia. And it's going to show me all the contact records under all the customers. So if I had a contact record for my other customer over here, which is John Doe, let's say I had a phone call and they said like request for quote, and then we had a email sent with the quote. Now my contact records will actually have that as well, so you can see that the customer ID is different. And if I actually wanted to add the customer's name, then I can do that through this sheet that I created from that subtable and add the sheet from the parent. So you can see that since I created the contact record sheet from my customer's sheet, from the subtable in my customer sheet, now customers is going to be a parent of that. So if I click the customers over here, I'm going to see the fields that were on the customer sheet. So if I want the name and the last name of the contact, then it's going to be easy to add by dragging and dropping through this window. So you can see that these are read-only, and it's quite simple to move around fields as well. Just drag and drop them. And I'm going to save this after that and exit. So you can see that this is all the data that I had in my customer sheet, but it's separated, and I can see all the contact records regarding this customer. Now there are different ways of doing subtables. The first one I created over here is a standalone subtable. What I created here is a new sheet created from that subtable. And there are also two other ways to create subtables. So if I wanted to link and load, I can actually do that as a subtable. So what that means is if you want to select values from another sheet and then load other values that correspond to what the price was, then like Chris Heldo is asking right now, I can do that with another method. Now let's go through that with his example. Let's say he's saying, Baron, can you make a price list in Ragic where you can have a markup in a column when you can adjust the price once? So in order to do that, we're probably going to need a product sheet, and then we're going to add a sales order sheet with our customer information. So let's quickly create a product sheet over here. And I hope that answers your question, John. If you have any additional questions about this, just let me know. Oh, and regarding the subtable, yeah, there are two other ways of doing a subtable. One we're going to do in a bit. The other is creating a reference subtable, which is also very useful. So creating a reference subtable is when you actually have a link between two sheets for the main field, and you want to show all the related records according to that link on the parent. So if I had, we'll do that last actually. We can show, for example, all the sales orders can be linked to one customer, and then we can add a reference subtable showing all the sales orders that a customer had placed. So we can do that in the last bit of today's the structure that we're building right now. Product name and price. Okay, this is going to be very simple and minimalistic. So I have a product ID that will auto-generate from Ragic, and I'm going to put a product name and price on this. So let's say we had bubblegum, and it's like $2. And next up, let's add a couple more products like chapstick. And let's say this is $6.30. And white mug. I'm just writing things that are around me, by the way. Let's say this is like $6.70. Okay, so we priced our products, and we have a couple, like 3 products over here. And we can create a sales order sheet to pull both the products and the customer who's actually buying this product. So let's create a new sheet for the sales order. And what I need for the sales order is a sales order number, so I can identify the sales order from other ones. And that can also be an auto-generated number. Let's just make it a kind of like a timestamp plus a number every day. It's going to be easier if you're actually a vendor. So, and perhaps we also have to have the date. And let's make this a default value so Ragic can generate one for me. So what I need for the sales order is my customer's information. And I can do that with link and load. So what link and load does is it will grab my customer's ID number and then fill all the customer's information like the address, email, and all the other things. So the first thing I'm going to link is, you can see this blue link. This means that this is a linked field, and I'm going to choose a customer ID or type a customer ID, and the other fields that I'm linking right now, which become gray, are going to be loaded to the database sheet over here. So it always grabs information from one side to the other, which means that if I update my customer's information, then it's going to grab their new address or new email address for my new sales orders. But if you want to like kind of modify the data over here, then you can kind of like write over it, but it won't update the customer's actual information on the other side because it's from customer to here, not the other way around. So from form tools, I'm also going to link and load. So this is the other method of creating a subtable. Now the product ID and the product name, And the price I can link as a subtable so that I can grab a product ID and I can actually have as many products that this customer is ordering in one sheet as I like, instead of like linking them one by one like I did here. So what I need for this is also the quantity, and this probably is a singular number, and it's gonna have a subtotal for each row, which I can calculate with a formula. So our formulas and subtables always refer to our field titles, not where the field value is. So remember in spreadsheet programs like Excel, you always have to kind of copy paste all the formulas or drag the formula to the end of the column or whatever. We don't need that in Ragic. We always refer to the where the field value, sorry, the field title is. So I'm actually going to write C12, which is where the price is, over on my subtable, my subtotals formula bar. So it's C12 times D12 over here, and I'm gonna also have a total. I usually add text and whatever, but I'm not gonna do that now because we don't really need to go into details. So if I write E12, it's going to take the entire column as a total. So that's something that subtables do for you, is that you can refer to a subtable field and it will give you the total of the entire column. So I wrote E12 for my total over here. So let's try that out. Let's create a new sales order with Sophia Hampton, and I don't have a mobile or address on my customer sheet for her, so it's not filling up, but all her other information is filling up. I could have also typed her customer ID number here and it will show up over here, so I can select the number. So I can do the same for my products. Like if I wrote P, then you can see that all the product IDs that start with that show up over here. So let's say I was ordering for Sophia 5 bubblegum boxes and then 3 chapsticks, and you can see that the subtotal and total is calculating. Now Chris's question is asking if you can have a markup in a column. Where do you want that to be stored, by the way? You can have a markup over here or a discount or something. For example, if I added a discount and it's a manual adjustment, so not a percentage but a manual adjustment of a dollar amount, I can do that over here, and then in the subtotal I can change the formula. So the discount is going to be deducted from this total. There in my parentheses, and E12. So now, by the way, I dragged the subtotal from here to here again, but the total, the formula in my total will update according to where that field was before. So it doesn't really matter when you adjust. You don't really have to try adjusting your formulas again. When you change the order of your fields, it will automatically adjust for you. So now we have a manual adjustment for my discount, and if I exit from here, let's say that I wanted to give a $2 discount, then it will calculate over here. But where did you want to store it, Chris? Because I'm not sure if you wanted to do that. So like if I want, I can also add a discount on here and then it will calculate accordingly. So I mean, you can adjust this accordingly. If you wanted to have a markup or a discount on a product, then you can have extra fields in your product sheet. What's your case? Just let us know, because from what you say, I can't really guess. By the way, let me quickly, because we saved our sales order there, let me show you guys the last thing I wanted to talk about, the subtables. Now, if I wanted the sales orders information on Sophia's sheet, I can add a reference subtable. So if I go to my customers again, and click on any of them. It doesn't really matter. It's just we're going to the form design, and the form design is going to be the same across all my records. So if I go to form tools and click show references from existing sheets over here, I can link to the sheet sales orders. And this happens because we are already using link and load and selecting a customer on my sales order with the customer ID. Remember what we just did. So that link enables me to put back all my sales orders according to one customer as a subtable over here. So what I need is, I don't need the customer's info because I already have that because it was coming from my main sheet anyway, but the sales order number, date, and total I want in my subtable. And let me insert that, and we can actually add another description thing over here saying like sales orders. And let me extend that and kind of make it prettier. And let me add a new row. Oops. I did that accidentally. Okay, so let me add a new row here so that it looks neater and save. So the reference subtable is for viewing purposes only, and you can see that it automatically fills up all the sales or records that are related to this customer. And if you hover on that, you'll see that sales order information. So this is very useful when you have different records related to that one customer on other sheets that you want to see here. So let's say if I wanted to calculate the lifetime spend that this customer did for my store with the sales orders here, I can actually add a field that can calculate that as well. And you can also filter subtables. For example, if I wanted to filter within a certain date, then I can do that through here. So that's pretty useful in looking up information. Chris, did you get your answer? Because I'm not really sure if I was able to answer your markup question. Yeah, let me know when you can. And again, as I said, I did not have the mobile phone of this customer or the address. So if I fill these up, and let's say that, let's make up an address, 21 Park Lane, Cambridge, and save that. So now that I have an address, let's say that I don't have that on my sales order sheets because when I link the customer the first time, they didn't have a mobile or address. That's pretty normal, and if I had previous information or previous sales orders from a customer, of course it's going to have their old address in my archives before they move. So in order to get the data in here, if I wanted to, I would need to refresh the customer ID over here and reselect that customer. So that's what's getting pulled from that, and then I can save again. But if I wanted the link and load to update according to whatever's new to stay current in some cases, then you can do that as well. So you can see all the previously linked and loaded things over here. And if you click on the gear icon next to the sheet name, it will take you to an option where you can actually keep loaded values synchronized with the source. Now, this is not useful for most cases, but you can do that if you always want to keep current information. So that's also possible. That's a very common question people ask me. Or if you need to synchronize it once with the most updated source value, then you can do this if you don't want to keep it in synchronization all the time. So I hope that helps, and yeah, that's all the subtable types we have. The first one was when we created a manual subtable. The second one was a linked and loaded subtable for our products over here so that I can pool my product details. And the third one was the reference subtable where I added the sales order information because I had this link and load for the customer. Now I'm able to put the sales order information with the total, the sales order number, and the date back to my customer that was related. So I'm going to send you guys the links for the guides over here through the chat so that you can have a look on subtable settings and how to set up a subtable, a reference subtable, and a link and load subtable. So that's going to come in the links. That's one. And any other questions? And please clarify what you meant, Chris, because I really do want to listen to what your case is. That's 2, and this is the reference subtable. And I hope that helps. If you have any further questions about any of these, just let me know because I would be glad to clarify any questions in your head. Let me reread that. Can you make a price list in Ragic where you can have a markup in a column where you can adjust the price once? Well, theoretically, if you meant that you just want to add a new field over here with the markup, let's say it's a thing, and you can have the price, which is, or like you can have several fields like base price. Sorry, this can stay the price because I don't want to alter that, but base price and markup. The price can be the total of this. So A5 plus the markup. So that can be your case. And then what you write here is not going to be visible through the sales order sheet because they only can see the price that you set. So let's say we bought this for $3 and then we put a markup of 3.7 and it's the same price. Now, since I added these fields later, it's not going to affect my previous values, but if I start editing, you'll see that this becomes what the formula says it's going to become. So unless you don't save or don't edit that, it won't affect your previous entries. This was $2, so let's say we bought this for 50 cents and then 2.5 is our markup and the price becomes 3. And again, this is not going to affect my previous sales orders, so whenever you add or change the pricing, it's not going to affect your previous sales orders in your archive. So you can see that Sophia had bought the bubblegum for $2, but if I create a new sales order for, let's say, John Doe, then select the bubblegum, he's going to see the price as $3, and let's say that he bought 5. We don't give him a discount, it's still $15, and his total is going to be a $15 total. And again, as I had added a reference subtable in my contacts database, now the sales order is going to be shown under John's record in my customer sheet. So there you go. And you can actually add a link that goes to that particular sales order. Right now it just shows you the details of the sales order when you hover on that entry. And it will give you still a link to click to. Next to the sales order sheet name, you'll see this little icon, and if you click on that, it will go to that one sales order. But it's easier to, I find it is easier to click this and make this a link to go to the sales order. So you can do that by going to the design mode, and you'll see that the sales order is here, as we had added that as a reference subtable before. And if you click on the gear icon, again, you'll see further options, and we can select sales order number to make it a link to go to the new sheet. All right, and you can see that this turned into a link, and when I click on that, it will go to the sales order. So I don't have to hover on this and then click here. I can just directly click on the sales order number to go there. Okay. This is a quick shortcut that I just wanted to show because I thought of it. Any other questions, anyone? I would be really glad to hear more about your case, Chris, and if you guys have any questions, just let me know, because today is your day of asking questions. Oh, and as I said, these reference subtables are mostly for viewing only, and it's very helpful, but you can't really add new data from here. So if you wanted people to add data to a sales order, you can actually click that gear icon again and create a button to add a new record on the sales order sheet. So this makes it easier for you guys to kind of link sheets together and make it look linked. So let's save that. And what I did just now is I created an action button. So if you click on here, it will autofill that customer's information on a new sales order form. So that's pretty useful in most cases, especially if you have a lot of users in your database, and like if you go to the customer sheet, you'll just see this button and you can have different mini actions over here. Chris, no, sorry. So he missed some of the webinar. The links are not about what you asked, but you asked about a markup, right? So I asked you if to clarify what you mean. For example, where do you want to add the markup? Do you want to add it in the sales order sheet, or do you want to add it in the products itself? So if you want to clarify, that would be great, because we did both. So on our products, we kind of have another field now that shows the base price and the markup. So this is manual, and the markup can be added manually. The price calculates the base price plus markup. But if we want, for example, a discount or a markup on our sales order, then we also made this a manual process, but it depends on your case on what you're trying to do. Here again, we changed the formula to exclude the discount from what the total was supposed to be. So it all depends on your case. If you want to clarify what you meant, or if this answered your question, just let me know, because of course you can add fields that calculate, change the calculation, but it depends on how you want to do it, right? The link is just one thing that we added to create a sales order from a customer's sheet directly, because it's easier to do so. Any other questions, anyone? And Chris, it would help if you say why and how you want to store it, because we can store the markup like I just showed, but depending on what you're trying to do, then it will change, like the process would change. Anyone else? This is your chance to ask questions. We only have 15 minutes left. And if you can't make it in time, or like if you're still working on your database, then it's probably going to... No, you don't need an extra sheet. You can just add a new field, or a few extra fields depending on your calculations. And if you don't want to show that to the people who are accessing the sheet, for example, on our product sheet, if you were doing it on your product sheet and you don't want to show how you calculate all this, then you can actually hide those fields. So if you go to here, there's a setting called hidden in the basic tab, which is the default tab when you click on a field, and you can hide these two fields so that people cannot see it. See? And you can have extra versions. For example, this can be the product sheet that your customers can see, and you can have a copy of this with multiple versions. So what multiple versions does is it actually is the same exact sheet, and it will show you the same data from the same data source. It's just that you can change the access rights or like have an entirely different design. So this can be products internal, and the other can be external. So whenever you have a new product to add, you can do that from the internal side. For example, let's add a stamp over here, and then the base price that we buy it from the vendor can be 3, and we're actually selling it for $8 more, and it's 11 retail price. So when you save that internally, then that's going to be shown on your products list that is external to your customers, so they will only be able to see that price. So you can have different access rights for your customer facing database sheet, and you can have an internal one if you want, but you don't have to do that. So it depends on where you want to do the calculations, how you want to do the calculations, who sees that sheet, what makes sense to your company. Does that make sense? If you put the cost price in, then it has to work out the selling price. But if you try to do it, the markup on cost must be available for me, but not for the... Yeah, okay, so in that case, you can definitely do this in a different sheet. And like I just did, you can go to duplicate your sheet with the Form Tools multiple versions. This was my one version that the customer sees, and where you add the markup and the base cost and whatnot can be internally shared. So again, that's multiple versions, and you can have different fields on there. You can adjust what's being shown. You can adjust different access rights. If you have, I think you were in my access rights webinar last week. So if you want, you can go back and watch it again. But basically, you can configure different access rights for different sheets. So I'm going to send you the multiple versions guide, and I hope that helps. I think it covers what you're asking, but if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate in letting me know. Hold on, let me copy paste this. So this is the multiple version. So you don't necessarily need an extra sheet to do the calculations on, but in your case, if you want to see all the markups and the costs, you probably need an extra sheet, and you want to do all the calculations and see it very visible on your version of the sheet, and then you can share the other sheet and hide fields or remove fields that the customer sees. Okay? Any other questions, anyone? We just have a little bit left, and I think we can fit in a couple more questions. If not, I mean, I hope that this was predictive for you guys. So this is actually the same sheet with my other products sheet. And what you should know about it is when you have these both, since they're the same data shown in two different ways, if I deleted the white mug over here, then it will also be deleted on my other sheet. So everything is shared. It's just that the fields are different. Yeah, the internal is the copy, but it doesn't matter where you generate the copy from. You can first do the external and then create the internal from that. It's just the data shared in the same data source, and then one has extra fields while the other one doesn't. So if I wanted to restore the data, by the way, a lot of people ask me this. If you want to restore data, go to your account setup. Only system administrators will be able to do this. And then go to recycle bin. It is on the bottom of this account setup menu. And you can see that I had removed the products PR003. And if you restore it, then I will get my white mug back. There we go. So if I refresh the internal version, you'll see that the white mug is back too. So if I adjust the markup over here, for example, if I wanted to add 8 to the mug and save, then you'll see that the price is adjusted on my actual product sheet as well. So yeah, what you want is definitely the duplicated version of the sheet. Any other questions, anyone? By the way, a reminder for people who joined me afterwards, on the 19th, I have a webinar about importing and exporting. The 19th is a Monday. And then on the 29th, I'm going to have a building a school database webinar, and it's going to be regarding adding students to teachers and, all that jazz. So it's going to be a school database based webinar, but you can use the same thing for trainings or workshops or whatnot. So if you do that in your company, you're welcome to come listen on the 29th. All right, great. So anyone else, any questions? And you're very welcome, Chris Haldo. Glad I can help. And yeah, this is the best way to configure different access rights in with the same data. So you can have copies of the sheet and then assign everyone different access rights. If you have sales people, they can probably have access to the internal version, and then your customers can have access to the external version. So it's pretty useful in most cases. And again, we had an access rights webinar last week, so if you go back and watch that, it will make more sense to you how to configure those, because you can actually do assignments and whatnot for external people. Any other questions? No? All right, well, I guess that's all for this this week. And again, you're all invited to the next webinars on the 19th and the 29th. Yeah, my name is Baron, and if you guys have any questions, please write to support@ragic.com, because I usually check that more often than my own Ragic email, which is baron@ragic.com, but write to support and get an answer faster, basically. And yeah, our user guides are pretty useful. Again, if you go to Start and Learn Ragic, there are plenty of guides over there. If you are stuck on a feature, just write keywords to the knowledge base search, and you'll most likely find it in the knowledge base. If you have further questions, email us and we will respond. We usually have a 12-hour response time during the weekdays, so we do respond pretty fast. And if you want to get technical or in more detail about your company, we're always listening. Alright, thank you all for joining, and I will be ending this webinar now, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.